All right, guys, welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I am your host, Patrick Vallejos, and we are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we are doing a deep dive into the Madeleine McCann case. We have a lot of information to go over, so go ahead and make yourselves comfortable. We'll get started here in about 5 minutes. Just give everybody an opportunity to enter into the stream. Good to see you, Scott. Welcome in. She Warrior, hello. Outside of the grid, welcome. So I think the way we're going to break this stream apart will be maybe the first hour or so we'll go through the timeline. So I want to do the timeline for the entire case. Then we'll do the timeline from the day of Madeleine's disappearance. And throughout that process, we'll be kind of throwing in all of the supporting information and the factual evidence and anything that might support the information. I think during the second hour, we will go ahead and open up the floor for discussion, maybe a little bit of speculation, and I think that'll do it. But we have a lot to go over. Welcome in, Shane. Yeah, Shane, this is a very interesting case. This is probably the most high-profile missing case in the world. I mean, it has somewhat died down in the last couple of years, but I mean, this is still a case that is fresh on everybody's minds. The first hour, yeah, we're going to be here for a while. We have tons of information to go over. What's up, Patty? Badass American. The Podesta brothers took her. They were staying at Sigmund Freud's grandson's home, a convicted child molester. That is a compelling theory. There's just nothing substantial. We're not going to spend any time on that theory. We touched on it on another live stream, but today I think we're going to focus mainly on Christian Bruckner and the parents of Madeleine. Those will be today's dueling theories. Audrette, welcome in. Badass is the Podesta brothers were part of the Spirit Blood cult. Yeah, that's part of the Pizzagate stream, but we're not going to be touching on that today. We're going to be dealing more outside of the realm of conspiracy. Try to stay as factual as we can. Outside of the grid says, I'm at my laptop in the kitchen. I got to hear that conversation with you and all dogs go to heaven. That is not her name. Cute, though. I wonder about her crazy neighbor, though. Yep, that's true. That is an accurate statement. But like I said, we're not going in that direction today. We'll save that for another stream. There's just not a whole lot of supporting information that supports that theory. That's more of a piece of information that supports the Pizzagate conspiracy. So we're at the 5-minute mark. We might wait another minute or two, and then we'll get started. Like I said, we'll break the stream into two parts. First hour or so, we're going to go through the timeline. We'll stop and go. I have a lot of content that I've gathered here, so in support of the information in these timelines. So we'll have the case timeline from when this happened up until recently, sequence of events, and then the timeline from the day that she went missing. So I snatched this timeline here from the BBC website. I feel some Art Bell vibes. You just need crazy callers. Antonio will be one of your regular. Antonio, I like Antonio. He's got pizzazz. Hey, Cheeks. For this one, I just always thought it was someone random, taken and moved around, trafficked. I think she's still alive and doesn't even know who she really is. Could be possible. There was a lot of weird people hanging around that day. Stories of a man in a ski mask. Stories of a guy begging for money. Walked into a woman's home a few days prior to this. So I think that's the most likely scenario. And we'll get into all of the speculation in hour 2. What's going on, Hiawatha? She Warrior. I don't understand why those parents thought it was okay to leave those children alone. Yeah, and that's fuel for pointing the finger at the parents. Because I mean, it is neglect, right? But I think that's up for debate. Maybe they felt that they were close enough that it was like being in another room, or maybe out in the yard while your kids were in the home. But even then, you really wouldn't do that with toddlers, right? Let's say you're out in the garden 50 feet away from your home. You're not going to go, get all drunk with your friends and just leave 3 children that are under the age of 4 in the home. But I'm sure they've been beating themselves up enough about it. And we're talking about intelligent people. They were there with a group of friends. Madeleine's parents were both doctors. Some of the friends that they were vacationing with were also doctors. So I'm not quite sure. There are some rumors of sedatives being given to the children. So yeah, we have our work cut out for us today, guys. And I'm going to need your help. Hiawatha says, have any of you seen the girl claiming to be Maddie? I did see something about that she took a DNA test. But I didn't have time to click on that. But you can share the information about it in the chat if you'd like. Hey Mustang, good to see you. Audrette K, welcome in. Good to see you in here. Says, I never understood that either, Hiawatha. I was a flight attendant and took my kids everywhere and never left my kids in a hotel alone. Too many sitting services. I grabbed a handful of cases of people who were actually convicted of neglect. They went out partying with their friends, came home, and, the child had fallen, or a piece of furniture had fallen on them, or in most of the cases that I found, they fell behind the sofa and either died of a heart attack or suffocation. So I think that is a possible scenario when it comes to the McCann case. But like I said, hour 2, we'll get into the theorizing and the speculation and trying to put all the pieces together. And I'll definitely lean on you guys heavy in the chat. Good evening, CJK. So I do want to welcome you all in. Thanks for being with us tonight. And if I'm speaking to you in the future as part of the replay crew, shout out to you guys as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. And an extra special shout out to all of you who have been supporting me and my work here on the Sleuth Intuition channel. We're trying to make a push at being a YouTuber full time. That's not easy. I can't do it without the support. We're 100% crowd funded. So those of you who continue to donate to the Cash App, to the Venmo, to the Zelle, um, even like $1 or two, it means every time I get a donation, I blush. All of it means so much to me, and you members as well. You guys make this all possible. So thank you. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, we're going to really get into it today. There's going to be some judgmental things that are said. Some people might agree, might disagree. But as long as you guys are able to agree to disagree on some of these topics here, we should have a great discussion. Hey, Jerry. What is up? It's a great photograph. Digging that beard. Dang, I got some work to do. Hey, Sparky. Good to see you. And She Warrior 64 in the building. All right, we're at the 12-minute mark. Let's get going. I know some of you are getting antsy. So there's a photograph of the beautiful girl, Madeleine. She looks a lot like her mom. I think this is a photo from the year that she went missing. Possibly. All right, let's get going here. 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished from a Portuguese holiday apartment 16 years ago. In the intervening years, a huge, costly police operation has taken place across much of Europe. I think we're talking like $11 million to date. Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry, say all they have ever wanted is to find their daughter. Here's the story so far. So this story starts in 2007. Shane, I still can't grow a proper beard. Probably have a lot of Native American blood in you. Got these little patches, little bald spots. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's impressive. Okay. So the photograph you're looking at is the Ocean Club. We'll make sure to spend some time on giving you guys a good idea of the layout of the land, the lay of the land. Everton Football Club. I don't know anything about these European teams. Okay, on May 3rd, Madeleine from Rothley, Leicestershire, I don't think I'm saying that right, is on a holiday with her family at the Ocean Club in Praia de Luz, Portugal. Her parents go for dinner with a group of friends at a restaurant in the complex. Madeleine and her younger brother and sister, twins, stay in the apartment 100 yards away. The adults had devised a rota system to check on all of their children during the evening. When it is the turn of Kate McCann, she discovers her daughter Madeleine has gone. Police are called and staff and guests at the complex search for her until daybreak. Border police and airport staff are put on alert, and hundreds of volunteers join the efforts to find Madeleine in the following days. So here's a picture of where they were staying. So here's the McCann apartment right on the edge. They left this door unlocked here. This is their garden to their vacation apartment. And a group of friends that we'll call the Tapas 7, because we're referring to the group that was at the bar. To me, that's the easiest way. We'll just call them the Tapas 7. That's the group that met up at the bar. They all left their children there. So I don't know if you guys think that's too far. I do. I mean, especially if your children are under the age of 4. But what they would do is they would take shifts. They would get up and check on their kids. And then occasionally they would check on their friends' kids. Like, hey, I checked on your kids. Everything looks good. But that should give you a pretty good idea. And I believe this is about 100 feet from the apartments to where they were sitting. I think they were sitting right here. Yep. Apparently, this is kind of a ritzy place. It looks really nice. But around the time that Madeleine went missing, there was a lot of shady characters around. A lot of shit was happening. Shane says, yeah, she was from Liverpool, and that's one of the teams. Thanks, Shane. Brad says, that's a Thursday. Thank you. Shane says that Tapas bar was too far away from me. Yeah, they had 2 toddlers. I mean, they were laying in like little, I don't want to call them cribs, I guess, like play pack and plays where you can kind of fold up a little playpen. There were 2 of those kind of sitting side by side, and then next to them was Madeleine's bed, and then an empty twin bed as well. Okay, on the 12th of May, the McCanns say they cannot describe the anguish and despair they are feeling. Portuguese police say they believe Madeleine was abducted but is still alive and in Portugal. On May 26th, police issue a description of a man seen on the night of Madeleine's disappearance, possibly carrying a child. And we're going to come back to all this information in detail. Right now, I just want to kind of lay out the overview of the case. Jerry says, no way I would ever have left my kids. It happens a lot more often than you think. You know, people go next door, they have the baby monitor, they're partying with their neighbors. They come back to find out that, one of their children accidentally smothered an infant or something like that. And I could see somebody panicking, right? Saying, well, I'm going to go to jail for neglect, possibly murder, manslaughter. Hiawatha says they should have gotten a sitter. It was more like 100 yards. Yeah, it was about 100 yards, 100 feet, 100 yards, somewhere in there. There's mixed information online about that. But what's really troubling is that the apartments or the hotel, whatever you want to call it, the club, offered daycare like 24/7. You can leave them there, and they opted out of that. So they could have easily have left them with the daycare, the sitters. Yeah, we'll take a closer look too. What's up, Ziggy? Jari, good to see you. Miranda Lee, welcome in. What you up to? Audrette, Ritzy Place, even more reason. There is plenty of sitting services to use, plus restaurant staff knew they did this every night. Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind is they left a note. I think it was on the outside of the restaurant, just informing the staff there at the restaurant that they had plans to reserve that table for the tap of 7. And on the note, I believe it stated that the kids were going to be left in the apartment. And they wanted that seat so that they could kind of see their apartments, have a good view of the apartment. So they're basically broadcasting to the world like, hey, we're going to be over here getting drunk. And they were loud, according to witnesses. You know, they were drinking, having a good time. They were definitely louder than any of the other tables, according to witnesses. So they were broadcasting the fact that they're going to be over here getting drunk and nobody's watching our kids over here. I don't know if that played into what happened. Hey, what's up, Annabelle? Good to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute. Maddie has that condition with different colored eyes. Don't know the exact term, but she was gorgeous little thing. Yeah, she had something going on with her eye. Take a look at her right eye. So she would definitely be easy to identify. Yeah, I agree with you, Hiawatha. Especially when you have a toddler who's not confined to like a playpen, they can get up. You know, who's to say that she didn't get up in the middle of the night and panic? Like maybe she was feeling sick. Maybe she was having issues with her stomach and she panicked and she went outside and started wandering around. Thank you, Sparky. Yep. Audrette, you're correct. They did figure out who that man was. Like I said, we're gonna come back to all of these key pieces of information and we'll kind of touch on them in detail. Okay, in June, a Portuguese police chief admits vital forensic clues may have been destroyed at the scene was not protected properly. So when the investigators responded, they didn't cordon off the area. They didn't interview all of the people that may or may not have been in the area or been walking near the apartments. They didn't interview everybody. They didn't even treat it as if she was missing. So they definitely dropped the ball on the investigation in the first crucial hours of the investigation. In July, British police send sniffer dogs to assist the investigation, and inspections of the McCann's apartment and rental car are conducted. And we'll come back to this. This is what really led people to believe that the McCanns had something to do with it. But we're going to look at it critically. By August, it is 100 days since Madeleine disappeared. Investigating officers publicly acknowledged that she may not be found alive. On September 6th, Portuguese police interview Kate McCann as a witness. On September 7th, detectives make the couple arguidos. And days later, the McCanns return to the UK. Prosecutors later say there is no new evidence to justify re-questioning them. So even though they weren't officially cleared, they were cleared. And I believe that they refused a polygraph. At one point they said, yeah, we're open to the idea of taking a polygraph test. And then they decided against it later. Jerry McCann releases a video in November saying he believes his family was watched by a predator in the days before his daughter's disappearance. And there was shortly after she disappeared, there was a huge pedophile network that was taken down. They actually found a missing child from Portugal in some of the CSAM footage, but no Madeleine. CJK says, I don't believe the parents had anything to do with her disappearance. Maybe they were concerned about sitting services and perverts. Yeah, I mean that's a real concern as well too. You're basically, I can see the apartment. We'll continue to check on them. I can see how they convinced themselves that it was a good idea, but they were more concerned about having a good time and unwinding, doing vacation things, and they weren't really thinking about the danger. Audrette says the note was on the reservation book. There you go. So Miranda says Madeline was born 1 year before my Olivia. The case scared me. Yeah, I bet. This is every parent's worst nightmare. That's why we're covering it today, guys. There's a lot to learn from this case, especially when it comes to neglect, making decisions as a parent, um, being aware of the dangers that are around, even even when you're nearby. We see the CCTV footage from Walmarts and grocery stores where little kids are just taken and they're right next to their parents. They literally are just somebody will grab their hand and start walking in another direction, and you turn around, your child is gone forever. Thank you, Shane. If you guys could hit that like button, make sure you guys go share this video if you could on all your social media platform. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some new faces in here. Thank you, Sparky. CJK says, I'd not heard that before about the note or forgotten, but the perv may have seen that note somehow. Well, just think about it. Human trafficking, you have somebody that might work at the restaurant, somebody that's staying at the restaurant. They see it. They make a phone call to their creep friend, get a quick little finder's fee, and the child is now being trafficked. Not likely, but I mean, it does happen. Yeah, and that does happen. Like, hey guys, I'm going camping this weekend. Too bad I couldn't get a house sitter. Bringing all the dogs with me. Right? You just plaster that all over Facebook. You come back and all your fucking TVs are ripped off the wall. All your guns are gone. And somebody steals your wall safe. What's up, Miss Dog Lover? Welcome in. Good to see you. Thanks for calling in yesterday. That was fun. All right. On January 20th, the McCanns released sketches of a suspect based on a description by a British holiday maker of a creepy man seen at the resort. And like I said, we're going to look at all of this info, guys. We're just going to blow through this. This is going to kind of serve as an overview on the case. In April, Portuguese police fly to the UK to sit in on interviews conducted by, and maybe you guys can help me with this, Leicestershire police of the McCann's friends they had dinner with on the night Madeleine disappeared. On May 3rd, 1 year since the disappearance, Miss McCann urges people to pray like mad for her little girl. I think she even met with the Pope. By July, Portuguese police say they have submitted their final report on the case. Weeks later, authorities shelved their investigation and lift the arguido status. I think that's suspect, right? Status of the McCanns. So they're no longer considered suspects. 2009 to 2010. CJK says, I've always thought the family was being watched at the beach, the resort, and then someone made their move. Well, if the family had something to do with it, that means that the whole top of 7 was in on it, right? And I could see that they would be motivated to do that. They all agreed, hey, we're not going to get babysitters. We'll check on the kids. So in reality, they're all neglecting their children. They're all in on it in some way or the other. And if an accident did happen, and this isn't the leading theory. The leading theory for me is that a stranger abducted Madeleine. But I could just see this group being motivated, saying, hey, this was a horrible accident. There's no reason for you to go to jail. We all made this decision together. So we'll all take care of each other. We all, as smart people, made the decision to leave these young children alone. And we came up with this plan to check on them from time to time, and that failed. We're all equally responsible. Welcome in, unindicted co-conspirator. I know I'm going to sound like the cranky 59-year-old I am, but a sitter if you're a football field away. Well, we're talking about 2 toddlers and a 3-year-old girl. While you're out drinking, you know what I mean? And they weren't just having dinner and having a few drinks and coming back. They were literally, and hanging out. They were partying basically over there. But yeah, I get what you're saying. You should be able to, right? But in all actuality, it's not a good idea, in my opinion. What is that? She has columbama on her right eye. The girl claiming to be her has it also. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I have to take a look at that. Remind me towards the end of the stream. And we'll kind of grab all these random tidbits about the case towards the end. Shout out to Louisiana. All right, let's continue on. 3rd of November, new images of how Madeleine might now look are released. Here's an age progression. A very cute kid. March 2010, the McCanns criticized the release of previously unseen Portuguese police files, detailing possible sightings of Madeleine to British newspapers. On November 3rd, new images of how Madeleine might look are released. March 2010, the McCanns criticized the release of previously unseen Portuguese police files detailing. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm rereading that. A month later in April, Jerry McCann says it is incredibly frustrating that police in Portugal and the UK had not been actively looking for his daughter for a very long time. In November, the couple signed a publishing deal to write a book about Madeleine's disappearance. 2011, the McCann's book, Madeleine, is released in May. Prime Minister David Cameron asked the Metropolitan Police to help investigate. A 2-year review follows. 2012, looks like we have another age progression. Heterochromia. Welcome in, none of your business. This was a cover up. Another channel really breaks this down. Yeah. During hour 2, we're going to really get in and we're going to put on the tinfoil hat and we'll get into all of that. Speaking of tinfoil cat, look at that tinfoil hat. Look at the cat. Miranda says there could have been somebody watching the family that week. That's what they believe. Welcome in, Jeanette. Cheek says, I've always thought somebody at the hotel was involved in some way. What makes you think that? And in what way do you mean? Like just spotting certain situations to take advantage of? Because, I mean, these people who are trafficking children, they're doing it as a profession. They're highly motivated and often work in networks. Yeah, it's still shocking till this day. Okay, Detective Chief Inspector Andy Redwood, the detective leading the UK review of Madeleine's disappearance, tells an April broadcast of the BBC's Panorama his team is seeking to bring closure to the case. A computer-generated image of what Madeleine might look like aged 9 is released a day before Portuguese authorities say they are not reopening their investigation. So they basically gave up. So 2013, in May, UK detectives reviewing the case say they have identified a number of persons of interest. By July, Scotland Yard announces it has new evidence and new witnesses in the case and opens a formal investigation. By October, Scotland Yard detectives say they have identified 41 potential suspects. A BBC Crime Watch appeal features e-fit images of a man seen carrying a blonde-haired child of 3 or 4 in prior deluge at about the time Madeleine went missing. Portuguese police reopened their investigation to run alongside Scotland Yard, citing new lines of inquiry. Yeah, I see those all the time, Jari. Leicestershire. Okay. Leicestershire. What a weird word. Thank you for that, Purple. I was struggling with that one. Leicestershire. Thank you, Caius. Welcome in, by the way. Yeah, that's a good question, CJ. Yeah, and that's up for debate too. They've kind of given mixed information about that, whether it was every hour, every 15 minutes or so, every 20 minutes or so, every 30 minutes. Um, I've heard that they went and checked on the children, but every time they didn't check on everybody's children. Sometimes they just went and checked on their own children. Then let's say they went back an hour later, then they checked on their children and then their children of their friends because they were all pretty much staying right around each other. Yeah, didn't they recently do a DNA test on that person? That's interesting though if she had the same thing going on with her eye. Cheek says 3 babies alone in a room all night when you're out to dinner. Let's not forget these people are not poor or anything. I would never leave my kids alone, especially in a place I don't know. Well, keep in mind they left the doors open also. One of the parents had a baby monitor. So I'm sure they justified it in their own heads that it was a good idea. I think some people might, Miranda. It's just not likely. I think the moral of that theory is that it's not likely. It would take the whole group to be part of the conspiracy. It would take Madeleine's mom, her sneaking her child out and nobody seeing her and leaving her somewhere. And then when the investigators show up with all these dogs, nobody finds her. So it would take a huge conspiracy for the family to be involved. They would have to leave the body in like a freezer somewhere or someplace off site and then come, screaming, oh, she's missing. And it's just not likely. In January, British detectives fly to Portugal amid claims they are planning to make an arrest. In June, searches prior to Luge are carried out, including an area of scrubland situated southwest of the Ocean Club complex. It yields nothing of interest. A month later, 4 suspects are squeezed by police, but no new developments emerge. 2015 through 2019. Most likely Miranda. She was most likely dead in the first 3 hours, statistically speaking. But you never want to give up hope. We pray that she's alive, but we know anybody that took her didn't have good intentions. And every day we learn more and more about the monsters that we're sharing this planet with, and they're evil to the core. Mondret says the Metro did investigate and it cost the taxpayer millions. I think 11 to date. A lot of Brits were not very happy since they felt they didn't use a sitting service in a foreign country. Yeah, they made a huge mistakes. They left 3 children, 2 were toddlers. They're all under the age of 4. Left the doors unlocked we're talking about for hours. Cheek says, I still think she's alive. She could be. It's just definitely against the odds at this point. Well, that's what happens, Sensei. Welcome in, by the way. When you can mobilize the media like this, kind of like what they did with the Delphi case, you got to really get out there. You got to get out there in front of the cameras, and you have to make a scene out of it. You have to make a big deal out of it. And that's what they did, and it took off like a wildfire. It's just unfortunate they don't have any answers yet. All right. September 2015, the British government disclosed that the investigation has cost more than 10 million. In April of 2017, the 4 official suspects investigated by police are ruled out of the investigation, but senior officers say they are pursuing a significant line of inquiry. In June of 2019, the UK government says it will fund the Met Police inquiry, which began in 2011 until March of 2020. Okay, now this is their first solid suspect, in my opinion. Yeah, and I think it was free. It was a free service as well, Hiawatha. Welcome in, Copper. How you doing? Yeah, I don't think children live very long on Epstein Island. Well, she was 3 in 2007. Yeah, there you go, like a spotter. Cheek says, "Yeah, like a spotter. Not just kids. They tell somebody these people have money. These people have items that can be stolen. Kidnapping is something that fits." Good luck with that, unindicted. Good luck. That would be amazing, Cheeks. That'd be some great news, honestly. And that does happen. You know, they're not all horrible endings. Sheer, not Shire. Well, which is it, guys? I need all you Europeans to help me out with this. Yeah, I think that's been debunked for sure, CJ. And we'll get into that. What's going on, Purple? I wonder if they dosed the kids so they'd sleep. There was a discussion that may have happened, that they may have been given a sedative, and maybe they made a miscalculation. But I mean, they're both doctors, so that's not likely, but it's possible. We hear about that in the Casey Anthony case. You know, she stated that she drugged Kaylee. A lot of people think that's how she died. All right. A year later, in June of 2020, police revealed that a 43-year-old German prisoner named by German media as Christian B has been identified as a suspect. The McCanns thank police, saying, "All we have ever wanted is to find her, uncover the truth, and bring those responsible to justice. We will never give up hope of finding Madeleine alive. But whatever the outcome may be, we need to know, as we need to find peace." German investigators have classified it as a murder inquiry and say they are assuming that Madeleine is dead. So you won't do that unless you have solid information. Might not necessarily be DNA evidence, but it could be maybe something only the killer would know. So if you have a guy confessing to his cellmate, like, "Hey, I killed her. She had pink socks on," and maybe that's something that was never released to the public or something like that, you know. or maybe she had a birthmark or something like that. The UK's Metropolitan Police says it has received more than 270 calls and emails since a new appeal for information was launched on Wednesday. 2022. In April of 2022, a German man is declared an official suspect by Portuguese prosecutors investigating the case. His name is Christian Bruckner, then 45, is made a suspect, although Portuguese authorities do not formally reveal the suspect's name. I guess it's part of their laws there that if you haven't been convicted, they can't show your face or give out your full name, just like the first name and one initial and the first letter of your last name. Yep, neglect. So if a child dies in Portugal due to neglect, you can face charges, like serious charges. Same with the United States. Some cases you can be convicted of murder. Sensei says, I'm sure there was something about cadaver dogs going mad at the rental car, and people said it smelled bad. The parents said it was that they left meat in there. Well, that's not even the car that they had when Madeleine went missing. The theory is that they kept Madeleine's body somewhere like in a freezer or something for a while or somewhere hidden. And then when the time was right, they had the new rental car and they took it out. But the dogs that hit at the rental car weren't the cadaver dogs. It was the blood dog. And they did find the blood in the vehicle. They took a sample and it was inconclusive. The same dog found blood in the apartment that Madeleine went missing from. It was a good sample, but it wasn't hers. But that's not what concerns me. What concerns me was the cadaver dogs that hit on Madeleine's cuddle cat, the little, I don't know, little stuffed animal or whatever that thing is, little beanie baby thing. And then the cadaver dog also hit behind the sofa. And if this was an accidental death and a cover up, that's kind of what would happen. Maybe Madeleine was walking around. She got up to go look out the window, fell behind the sofa, bumped her head, got caught back there, maybe suffocated, had a heart attack or something along those lines where it was accidental. The mother comes back to check on the kids, finds Madeleine there, calls the group back, has a conversation like, hey, she died. What are we going to do? And then they start talking, right? People start panicking. Like, hey, we're going to get in trouble. We're over here drinking. We neglected our kids. We're all at fault here. We'll make a pact right here and now that all of us will never talk about this because we're all equally at fault. It was my idea to not use the babysitting service, even though you wanted to. Maybe the McCanns originally wanted to use the babysitters and they were, talked out of it. It's just doesn't seem likely that they could pull that off. They're not going to, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it is possible. Miranda says, I don't think the McCanns would carry on like they have, writing a book, demanding justice, fighting the authorities if they were responsible. They don't fit the profile. They were negligent. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't underestimate anybody. Everybody's motivated. They have their own motivating factors. But it would be unusual for them to, I don't know, if they had anything to do with it and they were keeping up the charade, eventually they would kind of get sick of it, sick of playing the game. They know what happens. Eventually they're just hoping that the media would go away. But they really didn't do that. You're right, Miranda. They stayed present with the investigation. They stayed right there, tooth and nail, seeming concerned. They do kind of give off crocodile tear vibes, But like I said, there's not a manual for the way you're supposed to act after, when your child's abducted. So I think people that are acting normal are more suspicious than anything. One day. CJK is talking about a man that was seen carrying a child. See, that man knows the McCann. They were playing tennis, I think maybe earlier that day. And this gentleman actually used, I believe he used the child care services that were provided by the club that the McCanns didn't use. And that's what he was doing. He was leaving with his child from that daycare service. And apparently he came forward early on in the case and was ignored. They're like, no, no, we think it's the abductor, even though, you're coming forward and you fit the description. We're still going to continue looking into this as a lead. And the guy was like, no, it's me. And we'll get into that. Like I said, everything that we're discussing now, we'll get into detail. Yeah, something's not quite right, Hiawatha. Somebody's not being honest. I don't know who it is, though. Like where the hobbits live. Hey, shout out to Miranda Lee flexing that member muscle. Much love to everyone. Happy Christmas. Thanks to all the wonderful people I've met here. Yeah, we're glad to have you, Miranda. It's been a pleasure. Cheek says the reason I've always felt that she is alive and will be found one day is one, they never found her body. True. No blood either, right? And two, she was so young, it's very common for people taken that young to be implanted with memories. Yep, that happens. People that are abducted, they think their abductors are their parents. They're going to school, they're graduating from college, and then they're finding out, hey, my parents abducted me. I don't know if that's possible, Shane, but I get what you're saying. Oh, that's awful, Miss Dog Lover. They must feel very violated. Cheeks with the 19-month member flex. Look up Louis Albino. Just happened a few months back. Was missing like 60 years. Found through DNA. He was kidnapped when he was a kid. Yeah, that's crazy. He probably has no idea. I think Johnny Gosh might even still be alive. Yeah, there's some crazy theories out there. Hey, what's up, Sparky? Good to see you. All right, the McCann family marked the 16th anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance on May 3rd, 2022, saying she is still very much missed and they await a breakthrough. Later that month, Portuguese news website reports that an area near a reservoir about 30 miles from prior deluge had been sealed off. Police say they will begin searching the Array Dam on May 23rd. They must have got a tip. About 20 miles away. Okay, so let's break down everything that happened the day of her disappearance, the timeline from the top is 7. And if anything stands out to you guys, let me know. Thanks, Sparky. All right, 10 a.m., the day Madeleine went missing. The 6th day of the McCann's week-long holiday in the Algarve, the couple placed their daughter Madeleine and her 2 siblings, Sean and Emily, in the Ocean Club's Kids Club while they go for a walk. So they're using the daycare there. 12:30 p.m., after collecting the children, Kate and Jerry head to their apartment, 5A, on the ground floor of Block 5 of the Waterside Village Gardens for lunch before going to the Ocean Club swimming pool. 2:29 p.m., the last photograph of Madeleine is taken at the pool. The camera clock reads 1:29 p.m., but the family says it was off by 1 hour. 3:30 p.m., children return to the kids club. 5:30 p.m., children eat dinner at the kids club. 6 p.m., Kate takes children back to the apartment while Jerry goes to an hour-long tennis lesson. 6:30, Jerry asks David Payne, one of the so-called Tapis 7, to check on Kate and the children at the apartment. 7 p.m., Jerry returns to the apartment and the children are put to bed in the front bedroom overlooking the car park and beyond it, the street. Madeleine is placed in the single bed nearest to the door. There is an empty bed against the opposite wall beneath the window. Between the 2 beds are 2 travel cots containing the twins, the playpens I was talking about. 7:30 p.m., the McCann shower and change. 8 p.m., the couple share a bottle of wine together. So they're getting fucked up, guys. You know, they're not thinking about the kids. It's adult time. So they went to dinner already buzzed. 8:35 p.m., the McCanns are the first of the group to arrive at the Tapas restaurant. See, here it says 50 yards away from their apartment. I think it was further, though. I wasn't able to get a definitive answer on that. We'll say 50 to 100. 8:55 p.m. Okay, so they leave at 8:35 p.m. Let's not forget that part. 8:55 p.m., the group has ordered starters when the routine of checking on the children begins. Matt Oldfield goes to check on his own apartment. He also tells the Paynes, who are still in their apartment, that the group is waiting for them at the restaurant. 9:05 p.m., Jerry returns to the apartment through the unlocked patio doors to check on the children. Earlier that week, the McCanns had used a key to go in through the front door next to the children's bedroom, but worrying the noise might wake the children, they began using the patio doors, leaving them unlocked. Mistake number 1, right? He enters the apartment and sees that the children's bedroom door which they always left slightly ajar, is now open to 45 degrees. Thinking this is odd, he glances into his own bedroom to see if Madeleine has gone into her parents' bed, but he sees that all three are still fast asleep where the McCanns left them. Putting the door back to 5 degrees, he went to the toilet and then returned to the restaurant. This is the last time he would see his daughter. 9:08 p.m. Jerry sees Jeremy Wilkins, another holiday maker at the resort, on the opposite side of the road as he walks back to the tapas bar and crosses over to talk. Wilkins and his partner are eating in their apartment since their youngest child will not settle. The two men spend several minutes talking. 9:10 p.m. Jane Tanner walks up the road unnoticed by Jerry and Wilkins, although she sees them. She spots a man walking quickly across the top of the road in front of her, going away from the apartment block and heading to the outer road of the resort complex. He is carrying a sleeping girl in pink pajamas who is hanging limply in his arms, barefooted as well. The sighting is odd but hardly exceptional in a holiday resort. Her daughter is fine. Tanner returns to the table. 9:30 p.m. Kate gets up to make the next check on her children, but Matthew Oldfield and Russell O'Brien are checking too. Oldfield offers to check the McCann's children. In the McCann's apartment, Oldfield notices the children's bedroom door is open again. But this means little to him. He merely observes all is quiet and makes a cursory glance into the room, seeing the twins in their cot, but not directly seeing Madeleine's bed from the angle at which he stood. Afterwards, he could not say for sure if she had been there or not. Nor could he say if the window and shutter had been open. Remember, these guys are probably pretty buzzed by now. He would later get a hard time from the police because of this. Yeah, so he could also be considered a suspect, right? Maybe he goes in there and he's like a pedophile or something, and the girl wakes up and begins to scream and he smothers her. You know, who's to say something like that didn't happen? He could have easily have picked her up, taken her to his room, you know, deceased already, and hid her away. It's not likely, but I can see why police would suspect that. During his interviews, he was aggressively accused of taking Madeleine, coming under suspicion because he had offered to take Kate's turn. 10 p.m. Kate checks on the children. She becomes alarmed when she reaches out to the children's bedroom door and it blows shut. Inside the room, the window is open and the shutter is up. The twins are sleeping, but Madeleine's bed is empty. Shortly after 10 p.m., Rachel Oldfield goes to Tanner's apartment to tell her Madeleine has been taken. Tanner says, "Oh my God, I saw a man carrying a girl." 10:15 p.m., Oldfield goes down to the 24-hour reception at the bottom of the hill to raise the alarm. Police are called. 10:30 p.m., local police are first to arrive on the scene. At 11:10, detectives from the Policia arrive, having been contacted by police constables. They see there is a latch lock on the sliding glass window. The McCanns thought, but could not be sure they had locked it at the start of the holiday. Later, it was discovered that this was common for cleaners to open the shutters and windows to give the rooms an airing, so there is no way of knowing whether the window was locked that night or not. Around 4 a.m., physical search of Madeleine is called off. How heartbreaking. According to a witness, detectives from the PJ leave. All right, so there's the timeline of the case and of the day and the end of hour one. So we're going to play a few videos, fill in a little bit of these gaps. Probably do that until we reach hour two, and then we'll get into an open discussion. Thank you, Sparky. Yeah, anything helps, guys. So big shout out to all of you who have been showing some love to me, sending me $2 here, $5 there. Every bit helps, guys. It's not easy trying to be a podcaster, but we live with the choices we make and we hope for the best. And if it doesn't work out, so much for the sabbatical. They went to Tapas restaurant every night, and I think they got the same table, right? So if you are stalking them, you're starting to see the patterns now. Yep, you're right. That does make sense, Audra. Sounds like they had been doing this on other nights as well, so soon could have watched and changed with their habits. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you, Sparky. Thanks for sponsoring today's live stream. That was very generous of you. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, hindsight is always 2020, but man, I just couldn't see leaving two toddlers. Maybe a 3-year-old, if you're right there, you can see you have a baby monitor, but even then it's just like, man, very young, anything could happen. They could get out, they could stand up on their bed and fall and hit their head. Very risky. Oh, we have a super chat from Miss Dog Lover. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your work and for covering this. You got it. Yeah, I was very hesitant to go down this rabbit hole. Sometimes you're not quite sure where you're going to end up. Yeah, we covered the Johnny Gosh case a few times on True Crime in the Morning. I talked to Maureen a couple times on Facebook. She went and visited Drew Collins, the father of Elizabeth Collins, the Evansdale murders. Yeah, Noreen is a really good person. If you guys go join her Facebook group, there's a lot of information on that case, and she's very much involved. Yeah, we can talk about that right now as well. So, where should we begin here? Okay, let's go to the man carrying the child. So, this was the description that was provided to law enforcement. The pajamas are very similar too. I mean, right down to the pink shirt and the white bottoms. But this guy came forward right away. And here's the article right here. We'll kind of go through this pretty quickly. So Madeleine McCann, police spent 4 years trying to ID man seen carrying baby on the night toddler disappeared, despite doctors saying it was him. And this is actually a friend of the family. His name was Julian Topman, was carrying his daughter back from the creche on May 3rd, 2007. He was interviewed by police in Portugal and never heard from them again. but they continue to hunt for the Tanner man. Named after witnesses Jane Tanner, it was only when the Met took over investigation in 2011 that they found the problem. A GP told police it was him carrying his daughter on the night Madeleine McCann vanished, but officers still spent 4 years trying to identify him. His family revealed today. His name was Julian Topman, was carrying his daughter back from the creche when he was seen by one of the so-called Tappa 7, dining with Kate and Jerry McCann in the prior deluge on May 3rd, 2007. But despite Mr. Topman telling police about his movements, detectives on the Algarve continue to hunt for the so-called Tanner man. Named after Jane Tanner, the woman who saw him that evening. Key witness Miss Tanner saw a dark-haired man carrying a child wearing pink floral pajamas about the time that the 4-year-old vanished from her parents' holiday apartment. But it was only an hour later, when she was told that Madeleine had gone, that Miss Tanner realized it could have been the abductor. Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense, right? Oh my God, I saw a guy, carrying a child, with bare feet, something that stood out to her. In her mind, it's clicking, right? Like, oh my God, I may have seen the abductor. All seems pretty natural. Julian Topman was seen by one of the so-called Tapas 9 taking his 2-year-old girl back to the apartments after picking her up from the resort's creche. And that's him there. So apparently he came forward early on. In October of 2007, the McCanns put out a sketch of the Tanner man, but Mr. Topman had already told the Guardia National Republicana in May that it was probably him, but they kept looking for the suspect. It was only in 2011, after Scotland Yard took over the investigation, that Andy Redwood, Detective Chief Inspector, who led the probe from Britain, described a moment of revelation when they became almost certain the sighting Tanner man is not the abductor. So we'll stop there because of time, and then we'll move on to some of these videos here.
Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. I'd like to begin by...
Oh, hold on. I'm having some technical difficulties. Just give me a second, guys. All right, hopefully that fixes it.
For talking to us. I'd like to begin by taking you back to the events of May the 3rd, on that evening. Tell us how you discovered that Madeleine had gone.
As I think people are aware, we were checking regularly on the children. And
thank you so much, Annabelle. Thank you, guys.
And it was during one of my checks that I discovered she'd gone. I mean, I can't really go into any details about that, but I'm sure any parent will realise how that felt.
Did the panic set in immediately?
Yeah, pretty much.
This is a resort that offers childcare facilities, babysitting facilities. Why then were the 3 young children left alone in the apartment while you were having a meal?
It's a good question.
Right. I think if you know the location here, which you've seen, what we did...
It must have been his idea.
And we've been reassured.
Every time that's brought up, he kind of steps in and is like, well, and he tries to give an explanation.
By the fact in the thousands of messages from people who've either done exactly the same or said they would have done the same. And for us, it really wasn't very much different to having dinner in your garden and the proximity of the location. I think it's fair to say that, the guilt that we feel having not been there at that moment, irrespective of whether we had been in the other bedroom or not, will never leave us.
Do you blame yourselves regularly?
Certainly the first few days, I think the guilt was very difficult. But I think as time goes on, we feel stronger, and we felt very supported from that point of view.
Is there a lesson here, do you think, to other parents?
I think that's a very difficult thing to say, because if you look at it, and we try to rationalise things in our head, and ultimately what is done, and we do continually look forward. But we've tried to put it into some sort of perspective for ourselves. We're in a very safe resort. If you think about the millions and millions of British families who go to the Mediterranean each year, really the chances of this happening are in the order of 100 million to 1.
I think at worst we were naive. We're very responsible parents. We love our children very much. And I don't think any parent
Hindsight.
could ever imagine or consider anything like this happening.
Were you aware of the big public debate that went on in the immediate aftermath, and were you hurt by that?
Yeah,
naturally.
No one hurts you as much as the hurt that we had. But, we've tried to remain very positive in our outlook. And even small levels of criticism make that hard when you're trying to do everything in your power to get your daughter back.
I know you've been very supportive of the Portuguese police investigation, but is there anything that you feel could have been done better, particularly in those crucial first 24 hours when Madeleine was missing, and perhaps it was treated as a simple missing child as opposed to an abduction?
I think, we are not looking at what has been done, and I don't think it helps at this stage to look back at what could and couldn't have been done. I think it's fair to say we expected a very British-style response that you would expect if you were in a big metropolitan city. But you have to put it in context that we're in a tiny resort. But, that aside, the times for these lessons to be learned will be after the investigation is finished, and not now. It's an ongoing investigation which has huge resources, both from Portuguese and the British. They're working very, very closely with lots of expert help. And I know there's hundreds of pieces of information continuing to come forward. And I would strongly like to emphasise, we would like anyone who's been in here in the 2 weeks leading up to the abduction to come forward if they have not already done so, and upload their photographs, because we want Madeleine back, and people can still influence that.
Looking back, did you see anything suspicious in the days leading up to her abduction? Did you notice anything? Have you been racking your brains to try to think whether people might have been watching?
We didn't.
If we did, we wouldn't tell you, because it may be important information, but we didn't, It was such a relaxing holiday. And in fact, as a family unit, up until that night, and with the friends we were here, certainly for us, it was as good a holiday as we have had with the children.
What's up, Necessary Evil?
You have to keep believing that Madeleine is still going to be found alive and well.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't the German, it's somebody like him.
Do you ever, though, allow yourself to drift towards negative thoughts?
I think in the early days we did, and I think that's inevitable. I think any parent who's been through this does that, certainly in the first few days. We don't now. We're actually a lot stronger, a lot more hopeful now. And we have to be hopeful. It's what keeps us going and keeps us focused.
And what about Sean and Emily? What have you said to them about their big sister?
They're really good. They're at an age really where they're still quite young, and I guess it hasn't had the same impact on them as if they were a little bit older.
Right, Jeanette?
They do talk about Madeleine. They pick up things and say Madeleine's,
Yeah, they were definitely naive about the situation. I'm sure they're beating themselves up about it. Yeah, good to see you, Charles. Yep. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Some piece of shit. Oh, that shrine on the wall?
And that's fine, but they're really good.
I think that's, something that as many people have said to us, that this is a parent's worst nightmare. And it is. It truly is. And it's as bad as you can possibly imagine. But, you know, if all three of the children had been taken,
Yeah, me too.
it could have been even worse than your worst nightmare. And we've got to be strong for them. You know, they're here. They do bring you back to earth. And we cannot, you know, grieve. One, we did grieve, of course we grieve, but ultimately we need to be in control so that we can influence and help in any way possible. Not just Sean and Amelie, but the investigation.
And because of them, the day may come when you have to leave here and go back to the UK. I know you've got no plans to do so at the moment, but how do you think you're going to feel if that day comes and you have to go to the airport and fly back?
I can't think about that, Ian, to be honest. I
What's up,
can't think about going home without Madeleine. So
But they left. They
I
went
notice
back.
you've got Madeleine's cuddly toy with you as always. How did that start, and what comfort does it bring you?
where did it come from? Or
No, how did the idea come to just have it in your hands all the time?
well, it's something that Madeleine has with her every night. And if she's upset or not well, then she has Cuddle Cat. And so it provides.
So there's a whole thing about the cuddle cat. When they brought in the dogs, the cadaver dogs kind of hit on the doll, and she's kind of had this doll with her the entire time. So it's very suspicious. There is some theories surrounding that, and we can get into that a little bit if we have time.
Me with a little bit of comfort. It's something of Madeleine close to me.
But something's up with that.
This is International Missing Children's Day. I mean, I guess Madeleine's had more publicity than just about every missing child in the world put together. I'm sure you're very grateful for that. Why do you think it has provoked such enormous public support, which I don't think we've ever seen before?
Audrette says they didn't want to ruin their buzz picking kids up from the sitting service, or they didn't want to be judged, right? They come stumbling into the to the sitters, to the daycare, and they're drunk as skunks. You know, what they wanted to do was just kind of stumble home drunk and go right to bed. That's what they plan to do.
I think there's a conglomeration of circumstances that have come together in
Good to
this
see you, Scott.
situation. The fact that we're on holiday, very safe resort, recognised for that. And of course, the world has changed in terms of information technology and the speed of response, you know, in terms of the media coming here and us being prepared to some extent use that to try and influence the campaign. But above all else, it's touched everyone. Everyone. You don't have to be a parent for this to have a major impact on you. And I think it's also been very, very important. And some of the things which we have done and said, which we didn't realize what impact they would have, but so many thousands of people are doing small things to help us find Madeleine, because the worst feeling was helplessness, the absolute worst, that we had no bearing on finding her. But once you start to do that, then you start to feel a bit better. And I hope we're going to look back at the end of all this and say that we have done everything in our power, but also that other people are helping in so many other ways and they feel that they are part of it.
Does it worry you that people might start to lose interest as time goes on, the media coverage diminishes inevitably?
For me, we know that the media coverage is not going to last a long time. It's lasted much longer, and we have been much, much more successful in driving our message out than we could ever possibly have imagined. Personally, I think it's gone beyond that at the minute, and that there is a feeling with many, many people out there that they will not allow this to happen.
Let's go to Scott here. Says, I know somebody who has met these two and said they are a strange couple. And they are. They're both doctors. They both, you know, they could suffer from maybe a personality disorders. Like you could be a cold-hearted individual or an emotionless individual and not be a killer, right? So maybe that's just their style. They're not very emotional. Maybe they're just more calculated than anything. But I do get these vibes that might be what's going on with, at least with him. You know, he doesn't seem like a very emotional person. So maybe he's not really feeling too many emotions and he's giving off those vibes. It doesn't make him a killer though, it just makes him kind of an odd fellow.
And we know that, and we pray that it doesn't happen again, but when it does, the speed of the next response and the template we have set.
Yep. And it sounds, Annabelle, like he's kind of he gets upset when the media asks him that, like, hey, what were you thinking, leaving your children alone like that? He seems to make excuses for it. I have a feeling it might have been his idea, and he doesn't want to feel that guilt or take that blame. He's kind of sticking by his decision, and it's not his fault, that there was some sick predator in the area.
Will alter it. And there has been so much goodwill and humanity out
Jill?
there that it really has restored, that one evil act actually has resulted in so much good.
Where do you go from here? There's talk of travelling around Europe. Have you got any firm plans as yet?
We haven't got any firm plans. We're likely to travel in a few places in Europe. But as yet, no definite plans.
But you've got no plans to go back to the UK for the foreseeable future?
No.
I think that everybody has just been incredibly impressed with you
Emotionless,
as a couple and how
Miss
you've
Doglover?
dealt with this. There was a period after a week or so where you looked as if you were almost broken, and who could not understand that? And then there seemed to be a sort of a strength come from somewhere. Is that a fair point? Is that what happened, and what brought that about?
I think that's definitely true, isn't it?
Certainly, at the end of that first week, there was so much emotion that we had spent, and we actually had a period where we discussed this openly, that we felt completely devoid of emotion. And the analogy that I like to use is a bit like when we were students and you got to your overdraft limit and you'd gone beyond it and there was just nothing left in the tank. Also, I think physically and mentally were shattered. But, as you gradually...
All right. Because we're running out of time, I want to get through most of this information.
How do you deal with the fact that more and more people seem to be pointing the finger at you, saying the way you behave is not the way people would normally behave if their child is abducted, and they seem to imply that you might have something to do with it?
Yep, exactly, Charles. I think that's the weird
To be honest, I
vibe
don't
we're
actually
getting.
think that is the case. I think that's a very small minority of people that are criticising us.
They're not your average everyday couple.
The facts are out there. We were dining very close to the children, and we were checking on them very, very regularly. We are very responsible parents, and we love our children so much. And I think it's only a very few people that are actually criticising us.
I have never heard before that anyone considers us suspects in this, and the Portuguese police certainly don't. And without getting into too much detail
that sounds yummy,
about
Sparky.
the circumstances, we were with a large group of people, and there is absolutely no way Kate and I are involved in this abduction.
These are actually Amelie's pajamas. They're the same, but obviously they're smaller. The top is a pink top, and it has the character Eeyore on and short sleeves. And the bottoms, as you can see, are white with a small floral pattern and Eeyore again on the bottom right of the leg. So these are actually, apart from the size and the button at the back, which Madeleine's doesn't have, these are actually the pajamas that Madeleine was wearing when she was taken.
And everything we have done has been by taking counsel from experts around us, but we were advised that generally raising awareness of a disappearance will help in the search for that person.
Yeah, Charles. And it's got to be weird to come sit in front of all these cameras and talk to these reporters as they ask you these fucked up questions, right? Like, how do you feel being called a suspect? It's like, well, I didn't know I was a suspect. Well, don't you think it was a really bad idea leaving your kids there all alone? Well, it's like, yeah, like now we know that, in hindsight. And if they came out and publicly said, yeah, like we're overwhelmed with guilt. I can't believe we made such a shitty decision. if I could go back, I would do it completely differently. If they said that, then they would really be attacked by the media. So even if they themselves believe that it was a horrible mistake, it's hard to get in front of these cameras and say that out loud, I think. I don't think it would help.
Helped Kate and I, and we have taken strength, not just from the people who have supported us, but we have taken strength ourselves by being active in the search. And I think, you know, if we had, for example, stayed indoors, locked ourselves away, and just waited and waited and waited for a month, we would be shells of the people we are.
Yep, it could have been prevented. Scott says, would the U.S. media ask these kind of questions? Yeah. I mean, they tore up the Ramseys in the John Benet Ramsey case. They did a mock trial on the Geraldo Rivera show where they literally convicted the parents on live television. It was horrible. It was awful. Yep, it's all lose-lose. And there's not, you know, if you're acting normal, I think that's when you become suspicious. You know, why are you acting so normal? And there's nothing normal about these guys. You can see the irritation. It's written all over the face. I mean, look at Madeleine Soto. Look at her killer. He was overwhelmed with emotion. His eyes were bloodshot red. He couldn't stop crying. And that's the killer, right? I think innocent people in these circumstances, they're in shock. You know, they don't really know what to do.
A warning that this report from our crime correspondent, Martin Brunt, does contain some flashing images.
It's hardly been a secret. The German drifter has been the main suspect in the Madeleine McCann case for 3 years or more, but now it's official. Christian B. is suspected of abducting and killing Madeleine. German prosecutors are leading the investigation, but haven't charged him. The British girl was 3 when she vanished from the family's holiday apartment in Portugal in 2007, 15 years ago. This week, the suspect had visitors to the German prison where he's serving a rape sentence.
Watts.
He was told that Portuguese prosecutors had made him an arguido, a formal suspect. He was questioned for the first time, but refused to answer. Why now? Well, in Portugal, there's a statute of limitations of 15 years on prosecuting serious crimes. The authorities there may want their own trial.
In my opinion, this isn't just procedural. I don't accept that, you know, this is them ticking a box to keep the door open. Given what I know about the approach of the Portuguese authorities on this case and the seriousness with which it's now taken, I am sure they've made a judgment, and I hope that this opens the door for them to apply for extradition.
There have been other arguidos, notably Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry, later ruled out as suspects.
No charges have been brought against them. The investigation continues.
And Robert Murat, who lived near the McCann apartment. He too was cleared of all suspicion.
This is the first suspect.
Christian B's lawyer played down the development. He said this move by the Portuguese authorities should not be overstated. I assume this step will interrupt the statute of limitations. It is not a charge, and it may well be that the status is revoked.
They perhaps have themselves found some significant new evidence that may bolster the case against Christian B, and it may be that they want to work cooperatively with the Germans to now move forward on this.
Christian B says he's innocent and is expected to claim he was elsewhere on the night Madeleine McCann vanished. Martin Brunt, Sky News.
It's my understanding that his phone actually pinged near where Madeleine went missing. So he's definitely a prime suspect. All right, we're going to have to cut out a lot of this. Let's go further into Christian. This is the suspect here that they were just talking about. I mean, he looks like a creep that would be cast in a movie about a creep. I mean, look at this guy. Greasy hair. So he's in prison now for similar crimes. He did beat some charges recently, but he's in prison for sexual assault against children. He's a known pedophile. Yeah, and it would make sense. He was known for petty larceny. And if he's a sexual predator, he's kind of checking for open doors. The McCanns left their door open. I could see him walking in there, not really finding anything, and then seeing a small child. Yeah, Copper, he really is. Gives me the creeps. Scott, German stereotype. Oh, I'm sure they would be. All right, let's read this article by Rob Hyde. German detective issues Madeleine McCann update after bombshell claims that suspect Christian Brockner had confessed to abducting girl from Algar flat. A German detective has provided an update on the claims against the prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, confirming some of the bombshell revelations an ex-prisoner made about the suspected perpetrator earlier this week. Convicted pedophile and rapist Christian Bruckner, I believe he raped a 70-year-old woman, is one of his convictions, is the man who German investigators believe abducted and killed Madeleine, then aged just 3, from her parents' holiday apartment in Portugal in 2007. Yesterday, Braunschweig Regional Court, Laurentius Coden, a former inmate in the same prison as Bruckner, made shocking claims that the suspect had told him about various rapes. He was giving evidence in Bruckner's trial for a series of sex offenses unrelated to Maddie's disappearance. Coden, 50, claimed that Bruckner had boasted of raping young girls in a bus near Hanover and also abducting a child from an apartment in Portugal, then driving away with her. He also claimed Bruckner had asked about whether sniffer dogs could detect children's bones hidden under the earth. Speaking in Braunschweig today, Detective Nico Mueller confirmed that some of the allegations Coden made in court earlier this week matched those he disclosed when questioned back in August 2020. Mueller, 35, is an investigator with the BKA, Germany's equivalent of the FBI, that has conducted investigations into the case. We had him named as a possible contact to Christian Bruckner, so we were able to establish he was in a prison, so we approached him in the capacity, the detective said. He was told that it was about what it was about. We said was a murder case involving Madeleine McCann, that there was a suspect, Christian, and we wanted to talk to him about that. At first, he talked about Christian Bruckner having asked him if he could sort him out with a fake passport and driving license, as he said it would be good for Bruckner if he goes back to Portugal. But later he reported that Christian Bruckner had committed rapes in Hanover. At this moment, I hadn't heard of this before. Mueller also confirmed that Coden had said Bruckner committed several rapes in Portugal. He talked about 2 in Portugal. He said that one was a 70-year-old woman in a hotel and that another woman had been in Portugal. There were, however, elements of Coden's testimony this week that the BKA had not heard. When it came to the issue of Bruckner having assaulted girls in a bus in Hanover or taking them for a few days and then letting them go, Officer Mueller said that Coden had not previously revealed this information to authorities. No, this not reported to me like this, he said. He also said that Coden had not discussed anything about Bruckner having supposedly broken into an apartment in Portugal to find money and gold, or that he had instead found a child which he then took and drove off with. Before asking about whether dogs could sniff out the DNA of children's bones hidden under the ground. There are strong indications that Bruckner will be acquitted of the offenses he currently faces. And I think he was. The only way German authorities could then keep him in prison would be if court forensic psychiatric expert Dr. Christian Reidman deems him dangerous for society. So far, the presiding judge, Uda Inz Engman, who the prosecution has already tried to have removed on the basis that she is already biased in favor of the defense, has already stated that there is no longer sufficient suspicion of guilt for all of the charges, strongly indicating that he is likely to be acquitted. But if Bruckner is acquitted, the prosecution could then move to initiate preventative detention, whereby criminals deemed to pose a threat to society are kept in prison. I like that. Tomorrow will be the second time that Dr. Redman gives an assessment of Christian Bruckner's personality. On day 33 of the trial, he also did this, first discussing an introduction of scientific research on sadistic offenders and arguing that their main motivation is not sex, but rather power. Here, he said that sadists enjoy humiliating their victims, physically hurting them, tying them up, and subjugating them. Bruckner has never been formally charged in relation to Madeleine's disappearance and has always strongly denied involvement.
In the case of missing British toddler Madeleine McCann, her mysterious 2007 disappearance from a Portugal resort made headlines around the world. For the first time, German investigators say they found emails linking the prime suspect, Christian Bruckner, to Madeleine McCann. Police say they also found an account where
I wonder if that's why they think Madeleine is deceased, because of what he said, asking the question about if cadaver dogs could sniff up the bones of a child. I wonder if that's the evidence that they have that makes the investigators believe that Madeleine might be deceased.
Bruckner shared media of child abuse with other abusers, then deleted all emails in 2007 when Madeleine vanished. Bruckner is currently on trial in Germany for unrelated sex crimes and denies any involvement in Madeleine's disappearance.
Copper.
The 3-year-old vanished from a bedroom in the family's vacation apartment while her parents were having dinner with friends in the resort's restaurant, leaving their 3 children, including Madeleine, to sleep. Kate and Jerry McCann were once named as suspects and interrogated by Portuguese police before ultimately being cleared.
Yeah, Charles, he aims for kids and elderly. Most psychopaths, they don't want any resistance. They're looking for an easy target.
Madeleine has never been found. And joining me now to talk more about this cold case is Pat Brown, nationally known criminal profiler. Mr. Brown, this is still a tough situation because I have to believe that everyone would want to know what actually happened to this little girl because the family is just in pain. Christian Bruckner was officially named as the prime suspect, but this was back in 2022. German officials haven't released any additional information. Where do you believe things stand right now?
Okay, Nick, let's get some real facts here. First of all, the McCanns were never cleared. There was no evidence of an actual abduction. There was evidence of a disappearance. Now, that could be an abduction or it could not be an abduction. And that's the way the reality is. As far as Christian Bruckner goes, is that guy a psychopath? Is that guy a sex predator? Absolutely, 100%. But these bombshell revelations that we hear over the last 17 years often turn into bombs. They actually aren't anything. Now, what happened with Christian Bruckner is this, and the claims being made about Christian Bruckner. Back in 2020, Prosecutor Walters said that, oh my gosh, we have concrete evidence that Christian Bruckner kidnapped and murdered Madeleine McCann. And then a wonderful Australian journalist by the name of Mark Sinokonoko got him in an interview, and he fumbled around, that not Mark, but Walters, and could not actually come up with any concrete evidence, didn't even seem to know where the cell tower was, and couldn't put Christian Bruckner as pings anywhere in Praia de Luz or next to the vacation flat at the time. So then we had all these years go by after 2020 where there were, lots of searches. Never once has there been DNA come up. Her clothing hasn't been found. Her body hasn't been found. Nothing has linked Christian Bruckner to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. But now we have this bombshell news yet again. What is it? Well, back in 2019, apparently is when these emails actually showed up, and they were linked to a Hotmail account. And now we have this detective, Stampa, saying, oh, and it links to Madeleine McCann. Does Madeleine McCann have a Hotmail account? I don't think so. And if those emails had videos and photos in them, do you honestly think that 4 years later, we wouldn't have charges against Christian Bruckner? What they're saying, they're alluding to that he has something to do with this by these emails, but they never will come forth with what the emails actually have in them. So when I look at concrete evidence, I say, show the evidence. And they're not showing the evidence. They're just making claims. And I'm going to wait.
So, Pat, what does your experience tell you this? Your gut, you've used this in your professional work. Do you believe this is a purposeful distraction then?
It's really hard to say. The Madeleine McCann case has become the most known missing child case, I think, in history. And it has gone on for so long with so many machinations. It's really hard to understand what the issues are in it. I wrote a book on the case called The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann, and it was the McCanns threatened Amazon with a lawsuit and had it pulled off the market. It will be returning, by the way, not at Amazon, but in a...
I think Pat Brown is still very suspicious of the parents. I think that's why she's having issues getting her book put on Amazon.
Christian Bruckner is suspect in the disappearance of British toddler Madeleine McCann, was acquitted of unrelated sexual abuse charges by a German court on Tuesday. A convicted child abuser and drug trader, he is currently serving a 7-year prison term for raping a woman in Portugal's Algarve region, where McCann went missing. His sentence runs until September 2025. He has also been formally identified as a suspect in the case of Madeleine McCann, but denies any involvement. In the trial in the German city of Brunswick, which started in February, Bruckner faced 3 charges of aggravated rape and 2 of sexual abuse of children, committed between 2000 and 2017. Prosecutors had argued for Bruckner to be given a 15-year sentence. The judge ruled there was insufficient evidence for a conviction. His lawyer had called for him to be acquitted, saying he had only been put on trial because he was a suspect in the McCann case. The 3-year-old disappeared from her bedroom in 2007 during a family holiday in Portugal, sparking a media frenzy in Britain and Portugal. In 2020, German...
So yeah, they don't have anything solid on him. Damn it, we are running out of time here. Let's go. I think we'll skip all the cases of neglect. Might save that for part 2. Let's go to the cadaver and blood dogs.
We screened the vehicles using the dog, and the only reaction we've had is to the car in the far corner. And what we had is a reaction from the dog over here, where his head's up in the air and he's sent in the items that he's trained to find. And when we tie him down, he picks this guy from this door. The important thing to realise is that he's picking the scent that's coming out through the seal of the door.
So the dog that barks is the cadaver dog. That's how he kind of identifies that he's got a mark, that he's found something. And the other dog is a blood sniffing dog, and what he does is he'll point his nose and kind of freeze. So no record of anybody ever passing away in that apartment, and the dog is getting a hit right here by the closet, and that's where the that little stuffed animal was. Little cuddle kitty. Yes, Sparky, that was the parents' rental car. But remember, they didn't have that rental car at the time. I think they got that rental car about 2 weeks later. So the conspiracy theory is that the McCanns hid Madeleine's body for a period of time. And then when everything was kind of cleared and the dust settled and it was the opportune time, they made their move. And that's what the dog's picking up on. But remember, I don't think the cadaver dogs picked up on anything on the vehicle. It was the blood dog who found something in the back of that vehicle, and they were able to test it. Tests were inconclusive, and now they're searching the apartment where Madeleine was taken from. Right, Miss Dog Lover? My dogs would be trying to get loving from all these people. So the cadaver dog's picking up on a scent near the window behind the sofa, and that's what kind of fuels the accidental death. Possibly Madeleine fell behind the sofa when her mother came to check on her, discovered her deceased, maybe back there with a head injury or something.
Okay, what we've done is we've deployed the enhanced victim recovery dog into the apartment.
Take care, Jeanette.
Experience and the training of the dog. What I first noticed is that as soon as I came in, that the dog's very excited, and as a handler, I can pick up his body language, etc. And it would appear to me that as soon as he's come in the house, he's picked up a scent that he recognises. The second dog that we've seen work today is the crime-killing dog, Keela. She will only indicate to me when she's found human blood.
Okay, so she found blood here, and they actually tore up the floor, tore up the wall, and found blood, tested it. It was a good sample, and it did not belong to Madeleine. But the blood that was found in the car was inconclusive.
At this point over here, where the victim recovery dog was indicated,
Smarter
as you
than some
saw
people.
on the video, the crime scene dog was actually giving me what we call a passive indication, where she freezes in this spot here, which would indicate to me that there is some human blood there. She will
Same
find
place the
blood
cadaver
that's
dog hit.
historically very old, and she will find anybody's blood, any human blood, which is important to make sure that everybody knows. The fact that there's other scientific methods being used may stop you recovering any DNA, but if you try, we'll see what happens.
All right, because we are out of time, let's get into these diagrams here real quick. And we'll end with this. Can't believe it's already been 2 hours. Gonna have to do a part 2 on this. Okay, so hopefully this will help you guys kind of understand the layout. So you have Madeleine's room in the far upper right corner. Looks like you had 2 twin beds in there. One on the right side of the room, one on the left, and then you had both the twin brother and sister infants sleeping in these 2 small packable playpens here. And when they noticed that Madeleine was gone, this window here was open. Now the parents, they had 2 twin beds pushed together in the master bedroom. This states here, police became very interested in the blue sofa by the window after a cadaver and blood dog both alerted behind it. So that's what kind of fuels the theory, the accidental death theory. I mean, I can see it. The only part that's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around is how they would get away with it. Everybody would have to be involved unless the mother realized and made the decision on her own, right? Like, oh shit. And then instantly she knew that if she told anybody that she was going to go to jail for neglect. So she could have hid the child quickly and then later talked with the husband like, hey, this is what really happened. I didn't know what to do. It was an accident. I found her behind the sofa and she was already deceased. Nothing I could do. And I found about 6 different cases of child neglect that involved a sofa specifically. You know, and it involved a sofa and a parent leaving for the night, going on a date or going out to party, coming back drunk and finding their child deceased. And they got in trouble. One of them was charged with murder. So if there was an accidental death, I think that the McCanns are definitely motivated to come up with a story. And if they involve their friends, who knows? Maybe they did keep it quiet. But it's just not likely. Too many moving parts for that theory to work out. But the cadaver dog, I mean, it's very persuasive. This one specifically, cadaver dog alerts in wardrobe lined with shelves in Kate and Jerry's room. So the theory goes like this. Madeleine's mother comes to check on her, doesn't see her in the room, panics, finds her behind the sofa, passed away. Here. Takes her and brings her into the room. And this is also the closet or the wardrobe where I believe they found the toy even. There's some connection between that area and that cuddle kitty. So this should give you kind of a better idea where the crew was at. The Tappa 7. So you had the McCanns here, and this was the rest of their crew. And I believe they were sitting at a table here, somewhere right here near these trees. And they had a clear line of sight to the apartment. The only problem is there's a side door right here that they left open, and they left the patio back door open. And that gate would be right here. And here's where they were having drinks and having dinner. Never enough time. Here, we'll go to one of these cases of neglect here. Let's see. All right, this one is titled, Toddler Died from a Heart Attack After He Became Stuck Behind a Sofa While Playing with His Brother. Jacob Moore was climbing on top of the sofa with his 3-year-old brother Isaac when he slipped and fell down the back. The 16-month-old struggled to breathe and had a heart attack. His mother, Victoria Moore, rushed the toddler to the hospital where he remained in critical condition for 10 days, after which the family agreed to let doctors turn off his life support machine. Victoria went into the kitchen to finish of what she needed to do. The door was open and her son, who is 3, tries to get her attention, said Jacob's father, 42-year-old Simon. She went to see what he wanted and can see that Jacob was trapped between the wall and the back of the sofa, and his chin was trapped. He looked very gray and very ill. She tried helping, and a builder heard her screaming. The emergency services were called, and he was taken to the hospital. Doctors told us very quickly that his chances of survival were poor. Tests at Manchester Children's Hospital showed Jacob's brain was starved of oxygen due to the fall. Coroner's officer Rita Wilkinson said that the house was immaculately tidy and the home was child-friendly. At the inquest today, the coroner commended Mr. Moore for his bravery and thanked him for giving evidence. He recorded a verdict of accidental death. So if something like this happens in your home, it's not neglect. But if, let's say, you're next door and you're drinking beer with your next door neighbor and something like this happens, now it's neglect. And I think that the McCanns, if that was something that was going on or that happened, they would be smart enough to know that, hey, they're going to be in big trouble. But it would just take a whole lot of people. So look at some of the titles of these articles. Mother left her 5-month-old baby home alone while she drank. That one's from Mesa. Let's read this one. This one is from my area. Put this up on the screen. Mother left her 5-month-old baby home alone while she drank, Mesa police say. It's a short article. Police said a woman left her 5-month-old baby home alone Thursday in Mesa to go out and drink. Police stopped 23-year-old Claire Margaret Meacham in the area of Gilbert and Baseline Roads after receiving calls around 2:20 p.m. about a possible drunk driver. After being put in handcuffs for suspected DUI, Meacham told officers that she may have left her baby home alone, according to court documents. Officers drove to her home in East Mesa near Signal Butte and Ray Roads and said they could hear a child crying from outside of the house. Police entered the home, got the child, and then called the Department of Child Safety and waited for a family member to take custody of the baby, who was uninjured. Police said they checked Meacham's doorbell camera video and noted that she left home at 12:44 p.m., over 2 hours before police located the baby. Jeez. Mother of the Year. Let's see. Mom who claimed child died after getting stuck in the couch. So I think she was actually charged with neglect in this case. Thank you, Sparky. Okay, a mother has been arrested for the murder of her toddler. Notice they use the word murder of her toddler 3 years after claiming that and this is 3 years after claiming that the 1-year-old died after getting stuck in a couch. Brandy Lynn Parker, 39, was arrested on Wednesday morning and charged with 1 count of felony murder and 1 count of child abuse and neglect resulting in serious injury. The Lynchburg Police Department said in a press release that officers responded to a 911 call at around 10:40 a.m. on January 23, 2020, about an infant being discovered not breathing at an apartment building on Terra Drive. Ms. Parker was later identified as having made the call. When officers arrived, they continued the life-saving efforts begun by Ms. Parker until the arrival of the Lynchburg Fire Department, who attempted to save the child, taking the toddler to Lynchburg General Hospital in an ambulance. Not long after the child got to the hospital, the toddler was pronounced dead. A search warrant was issued for a blood sample to be taken from Ms. Parker. The warrant states that Ms. Parker called 911 saying that her other child, age 2, fell asleep on top of the victim on the couch, which means she probably did. Parker allegedly added that she located the victim stuck in the couch. After taking the victim to the hospital, officers still at the scene said they detected the odor of alcohol coming from Parker. The mother said that she had been drinking the evening before. CPS was called in. Ms. Parker agreed to take a preliminary blood test conducted by the agent from CPS showing that she had a blood alcohol content of 0.14. Damn. The authorities took a blood sample from Ms. Parker for testing, saying that it was due to the fact she was the sole caretaker of the victim and 2-year-old at the time of the infant's death. According to the warrant, police also took a bottle, blanket, formula, 2 onesies, swabs of suspected area of death during their investigation at the residence. Ms. Parker is held in the Blue Ridge Regional Jail without bond. Here's another one.
Chelsea woman went out partying while her 3-year-old was homesick in the care of his 7- and 8-year-old siblings. When she returned home in the morning, that child was dead. WBZ's Beth Romano is live for us in Chelsea tonight. Beth, the story is just so tragic.
Absolutely, David. And prosecutors say the child was sick enough that the mother took him to 2 different medical appointments in recent days. But that was not enough, they say, to stop her from leaving his bedside Saturday night. And she's now charged with involuntary manslaughter and reckless endangerment of a child. 25-year-old Jennifer Prudencio crying in court as prosecutors say she knew her 3-year-old son Yael was sick in the week leading up to his death, but made a decision to spend Saturday night out drinking.
The defendant went out that night to a bar in Revere where she drank alcohol for a number of hours, and then she slept at a friend's home, a boyfriend's home in Somerville.
The family lived in this Chelsea apartment building with a memorial to the little boy, who prosecutors say had a seizure disorder, hemophilia,
like Casey
and
Anthony.
had been vomiting blood in the days before he died.
I remember the little boy because he was so cute, and I always had contact with all the kids, and I always say, "Hi,
Keys. But on this
Hi.
night in
Hi,
apartment
kids.
311, prosecutors say Yael was pale, had an untreated head injury from a fall, and was left in the care of his 7- and 8-year-old siblings overnight. Prudencio allegedly admitted to police one of the children reached out to her that night.
The defendant also admitted that during the night she received a video and text from her 8-year-old son communicating concerns for the child, the alleged victim.
Yeah, how fucked up is that? The child, the older sibling, called the mother on a video call and said, "Look, something's wrong. Something's not right. You need to get home." She's just blew him off. Like, nope, I'm out partying. Thanks, Copper. So I don't know if this is what happened. Let me see. I think I have a couple more here. Oh, here's one. Toddler dies after getting wedged behind family sofa. The toddler is believed to have been climbing along the top of the sofa when he slipped and fell, getting wedged between the wall and back of the sofa. Right? An accidental death, unless you're 100 yards away drinking in the middle of the night, then it's neglect. We'd like to revisit the story to remind you that accidents can strike at unexpected moments. Do stay aware at all times when your active baby or busy toddler is with you. Reports say that the toddler is believed to have been climbing along the top of the sofa when he slipped and fell, getting wedged behind the wall and back of the sofa. Struggling for breath because he was trapped against the wall, the little boy suffered a cardiac arrest. Jacob's mother, Victoria Moore, was in the kitchen when their 3-year-old son, Isaac, who had been playing... Oh, we already read this one, huh? I might have one more. Let's see. I don't know. This one's a little bit long. Maybe we'll finish with the cuddle cat. And it goes into the theory that at least Kate McCann might have had something to do with it. Just doesn't seem likely, but we'll entertain it. Kate McCann washed her daughter Madeleine's pink cuddle cat toy because it was dirty and smelled like sun cream. However, some say it's strange that she washed it because Madeleine's DNA would be on the toy. In 2012, Portuguese police wanted to seize the cuddle cat again as part of their investigation into the disappearance of Madeleine. The toy had been examined by forensic teams earlier that year. Madeleine went missing while on holiday with her parents, Kate and Jerry. And here's that thing. I do find it strange that she would wash it. She always carried this thing. And I mean, it makes you wonder, because apparently where the cadaver dogs were hitting, that's where they kept the toy. Over here near the wardrobe. Could be Scott. But when you try to piece it all together, it would be the only way that if she did walk into that apartment and find Madeleine already deceased, she would have had to do something all on her own, right? She would have to take action alone. All right, let's go ahead and close out that poll. Sorry, guys, we are out of time. If you want to go ahead and participate in the poll and you haven't yet, the question is, what happened to Madeleine? Answers are accidental death and cover-up, which seems to be leading at this point at 35%. Christian Bruckner abducted her. I'm thinking it's more along the lines of that. So that would have been my vote. If not him, somebody very similar to him. 23% of you said unknown person took her. 22 said I have no clue. So we'll go ahead and shut that down. All right, guys, we didn't get to go over everything that I wanted to. Unfortunately, I am out of time, but I do want to thank all of you who were able to catch the live stream and who participated in the chat. Thank you for that flex, Miranda. Thank you, Cheeks. And for our 3 sponsors, a special thank you to Sparky, Miss Dog Lover, very generous of you guys, and Annabelle. And all of you who continue to donate to the Cash App, the Venmo, and the Zelle. And those of you who become members and support my merch shop, you guys make this possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to justify spending the amount of time I do looking into these cases and hanging out with you guys here on YouTube and working on the website and things like that. So I couldn't do without you, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Most likely tomorrow morning, we will be going live, and also a members only live stream is scheduled for tomorrow. Keep your eyes peeled for that notification. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you again real soon. Peace.